Well, welcome everyone to episode 0 of the Real Profit, Real Perspective podcast. I'm Connor Malatesta, and I'm joined with Ryan Bannister. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, I definitely messed up that intro a little bit, but it's okay. We'll fix it in post.
It's all good.
So we decided that we wanted to start our own podcast because we work with a whole bunch of clients in a whole bunch of different walks of life and get so many different questions relating to money and business and personal finances and retirement planning and all those other boring things that most people don't want to really listen to until it suddenly becomes way too important. And to try to head off a lot of these same questions we get over and over, we would talk about them here on the podcast and try and share some of our experiences of creating our own businesses, building everything from scratch, our clients with what we've seen, and just try to share some of that accumulated knowledge to help whoever ends up listening to this with hopefully their own lives.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And I think on the one part you mentioned, like of experiences, of which there are many. I was just thinking about this, man. Like, I looked at the calendar and it's 2025. I started my career almost 10 years, like July will be 10 years ago, which is crazy
It
to
is,
think of.
man. It's wild to hit the point to when you can say, "Yes, I've been working for a decade. I have a decade's worth of experience," which
Mm-hmm.
feels not as long as it sounds.
It does not. Especially when it's broken up into like chunks of 3 to 4 years in each like phase, you know?
When you take 10 years, break it into two here, three there, two
Hmm.
over here, it never feels quite as long. So,
Yeah.
why don't you go ahead and tell our wonderful listeners, who are you? What have you done? What do you do? And, just give them a little context around who you, Mr. Bannister, are as a person.
Yeah, I think great segue. So, like I was saying, crazy enough, my career started almost 10 years ago in public accounting at Carbriggs and Ingram. So I started as a staff financial statement auditor. And primarily at first, we were working with like government entities, construction companies, all sorts of different smaller businesses that were local to the area. And over the almost 4.5, I think, years I was at CRI, the client base changed a lot. So we went from a lot of smaller projects to larger fund insurance companies and other construction companies around the area and into areas I had never even honestly knew existed until then. So that was great experience from understanding basic financial statements to I think one of the best skills I learned, and you can probably attest to this too, Connor, is critical thinking, honestly, and looking at something outside of the numbers that are on the piece of paper and trying to tell, I don't know,
Mhm.
not to sound cliche, but tell the story about it. And not to ramble on about accounting, but that's the point of this
I mean, that is what both of us are basically trained as.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we both have degrees in it, so it has been ingrained into
Do.
us to be second nature. Now,
Yeah.
before we go too far, on the off chance that there's somebody listening to this that doesn't know what a financial statement auditor does, which will probably be most people that listen because auditors are woefully underrepresented in popular culture. Everybody knows about taxes, but nobody knows about the hardworking auditors that are out there asking questions and demanding documentation and interrupting your daily schedule. What is a financial auditor?
Ooh, well, I can always tell you the term that's ingrained in my head, and that's giving reasonable assurance that your financial statements are materially accurate and a bunch of other attestations that we make. But in a word, making sure your financials are accurate. And I don't know. What do you think? Did I hit it on the head, or am I too technical? I'm trying to give a good definition here that's not like nerdy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's how do you explain the concept of having to check over financial statements and issue opinions and audit reports and blah 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 and management representation letters without boring the other party to tears that isn't the one directly paying for the report, and that is the only reason why they care about it.
Yep.
I mean, I think for most people that aren't at an organization that is large enough to necessitate an audit, it I'd say fundamentally the whole point of an auditor is to come in, check over a business's numbers and make sure that they are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable assurance. Do auditors find all fraud? No, you can go look at all the headlines. KPMG, I think, is notorious for that.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, that's a whole other thing. But I mean, in a nutshell, with a lot of small businesses, and these are auditors not in a IRX or tax perspective, which are hated even more so than we are. Our role as a financial auditor is to basically come in, look at a bunch of supporting documentation, run a bunch of tests, and make sure that when you send financials to whatever third party, whether it's the government, an insurance company, the bank, that's basically the only ones that want audited financials, that they know they can rely on those numbers. And both of our training is making sure that we can actually understand what's going on with the business.
Right.
Now, I know we both could have our own episode on what it's like to be a financial auditor and struggling with burnout and all of that, but I think we'll save that for later on when we want to get more into the work-life balance. So
Yep.
after you worked at Car Rigs and Ingram for 4 years, correct?
Yeah, almost five, and then transitioned over to corporate finance at a large local hospital here, so Duke University Hospital. And I think one part, to briefly go back to our experience in public and not to steal any of your thunder either, but one aspect that really transferred over well to industry from public accounting was the internal controls and business process work that we had, an experience we gained in there, especially in corporate, because that's so key to, like, you're doing that work now versus coming in after the fact and looking at it. So that really gave me both sides of the coin. And I stayed at Duke about three years or so. And I started there in 2019, about 3 months before the world got turned upside down in 2020. So it was a lot of fun working at a hospital during that. Lots of great experience.
Didn't you feel so honored to be essential personnel?
Oh, it was great, you know. And one of the reasons that I say I left public was because I hated doing inventory counts. And as soon as I got to Duke, the pandemic started, and we were doing inventory counts of masks and
Oh,
gloves. And
so how many thousands of masks and gloves did you have to look at?
ridiculous storerooms full. Like, we honestly, we couldn't even keep track. Even the inventory counts, with how crazy the hospital was and the lack of people willing to like enforce inventory controls, because
Because
it
they
had
had
to
more
do,
important things to worry
yeah,
about at the
it
time.
had to happen. So you don't have time to mark it on the
Hmm.
count, like on the tracking sheet or something when you take a mask. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I say that both sarcastically, but also, I really did enjoy my time at Duke, and I would have stayed there a lot longer, I think, if it hadn't been for my, I guess, passion side of things that came through, and the eventual, I don't know the right phrase, but the eventual changing of the guard, I guess, to move on. And start at that point. That's when I started my own shop over here, and kind of I call myself a slight career changer because I am still in the financial services field, but I do less of the business process and consulting work now and focus more on the personal financial planning and investment advice side. So that's where the name One Up Financial Advisors comes from. And I still do accounting and bookkeeping work with clients, but we essentially work with small business owners and content creators to take from as soon as the dollar comes into the business, follow it to the end when you pay it to yourself and have to figure out how to invest it and achieve your goals through all of the lovely things we just talked about. So, like I said, I don't want to steal any of your thunder, Connor. So
I mean,
tell me more about you, man.
You've been working for 10 years. There's a lot to talk about, and we have to try to not gloss over those periods where we spent way too much time together.
I know, right?
Trapped in audit rooms. I also just now realized why you call yourself One Up Financial Advisors, with the joke being with the content creators. And that is an actual honest to God realization that I just had at this moment right now. That was not scripted. I'm not making that up. I suddenly realized, oh, I get it. That's clever.
I appreciate that.
Branding is not my strong point. Yeah, so we originally met working at CRI. So education-wise, I graduated with a master's in accounting from Wake Forest University in 2017, and at that point was already so deeply indoctrinated into going into public accounting that I was studying for the CPA exam and figured I'd go apply for a public accounting firm. So I started, what was it, 2 years, I think, after you did. You were the direct senior that I was working with, and we just had truly a great time being in some of just the worst places.
Misery loves company.
It is. It really is amazing what good company can do to make a terrible situation bearable. It wasn't until I truly realized that, yep, I would rather work with people that are funny and personable and I enjoy being around than somebody who maybe was the best at what they do, but a complete and utter asshole, which I'm pretty certain we got to experience both of those. But similar to you, after 2 years, 2019, we were both, working in Raleigh, and my folks, I was living at home at the time, and they had the opportunity to move back up here to Michigan, where we were originally from and where I'm now living. And so I decided, well, I always jokingly said, why do we do audits when we could do client accounting work, get paid more, and have way less stress? And I just decided to take my own advice. I do get to claim of starting my business before you, so I win there. And there was no better time to start a freelance accounting business than right when a pandemic hit. Now, that I am being somewhat serious about that. In the push to everything being virtual made the new client acquisition process easier, because suddenly people couldn't go see their accountant in person because everything was closed down.
Right.
And so suddenly everybody got used to virtual meetings and Google Meets and Zoom and Skype and all that stuff. And I was able to get some freelance work. I say some, I made like 20K that first year. So it was that was a year of I mean, it's still a struggle, but that was an exceptional struggle. And at this point, I have been in business for about 5 years. So I am now one of two managing partners of Markov and Malatesta CPAs. Our name is nowhere near as creative as yours. We decided to, stroke our own egos and have our last names as the name of the firm, because why not? But we are a full service CPA firm. So I do all of the not tax work, And my tax partner, Matt Markoff, does all of the tax work. I'm sure we'll have him on here at some point to talk taxes and bore both of us to tears. But, people seem to really care about taxes. I don't know why, but they do. And so we are, I think, at this point, a firm of about 13 people. So we're just a little bit bigger than you. But we do everything from bookkeeping, payroll. We've just rolled out a new partnership to allow us to do sales tax, pretty much all the stuff relating to business, with the exception of financial audits, because that work sucks. And we'll let the big boys take care of that. And it prevents us from actually helping and giving advice.
Mm-hmm.
And I would much rather be able to have weekly meetings with clients and tell them what to do and share what everyone else is doing and actually be a part and make them grow bigger, instead of having to say, "Man, you guys need to fix this shit, but we can't tell you how. You need to fix it on your own." And then the client goes, "Well, how do we do that?" And we go, "Well, wouldn't you like to know?" And they go, "Yes, we would." And I go, "Well, we can't tell you. Go find somebody else." And that whole relationship is really what prompted us to talk about starting this podcast, is working with clients in a advisory capacity. There's a lot of people out there that have businesses for the first time that have no idea what the fuck they're doing. And there's countless books out there on how to run a business, how to start your own business, how to do all that stuff. Many of them, their first business is writing a book on how to start your own business. I think there's a joke that the easiest way to make $1 million is write a book about how to make $1 million. But there's a lot of preconceived notions people have about what it means to be in business, a lot of misconceptions. Throw in social media and TikTok and people that speak very authoritatively on things that they don't really know, but you as the end user don't know that they don't know. I think I've seen some where people will set up these mock interviews on TikTok like they're being recorded for a documentary, and you look them up and they have no background. They were, an accounting manager somewhere. They're giving investment advice, or the usual step half a toe into crypto and you'll trip over a scam of one form or another, or somebody doing a pump and dump or any sorts of schemes. And social media has made a lot of financial advice kind of sort of the Wild West, because there's a lot of people out there that aren't licensed by the state, that there is no oversight. They can just say whatever they want, and they don't have a license that can be lost. Both of us are licensed CPAs. If we get in trouble, you can report us to our state CPA boards. We are held to a higher ethical standard. I have better things to do than try and BS our clients, but actually give them, good advice on what needs to happen. And it's been that, a lot of that fake news, I guess you could call it, or people out there that just peddle a lot of misinformation, that we really wanted to do our tiny infinitesimal part to try and just cut through a little bit of it for those that ended up listening. And I know personal finance, because I only deal with businesses, but I know particularly in the realm of personal finance, Ryan, there's a lot of misconceptions out there, isn't there?
Massive. And you hit on a couple of points that were pretty instrumental in me starting my firm. So one up is an RIA, which is a registered investment advisor. So we're registered with the state of North Carolina, who periodically audits us and examines the books and records, investment trades that we do, how we're serving clients, to mitigate what you were alluding to of all these people online that are giving quote unquote investment advice, but they have no background or aren't licensed in this field. So combating those misconceptions or myths or all the, just misinformation that's out there was a big motivator for what I do. And also, that's the regulatory environment. I had to register to build this as a business. Otherwise, you are sort of in danger of violating that, I guess. But
I
so
mean,
I'm
I don't understand why you don't just say that you're not a financial advisor and it's not investment advice, and then
yep.
just say whatever the hell you want. I mean, I saw it on YouTube.
Funny enough, even when you are a financial advisor and you are regulated by the state, you still have to make disclaimers.
I thought you could just disclaim your way out of any legal liability as you're
Yeah.
pumping a new crypto coin.
Gotta love those rug pulls, baby.
Oh man, I mean, if we didn't have them, what would we read about in the news?
Right? Right?
Nothing excites me more than waking up in the morning, opening up the Wall Street Journal. Okay, opening is metaphorical. Who the hell gets a paper copy of the newspaper anymore? And seeing what new rug pull happened. Um, there's a few that come to mind just in the last couple months that
Yep.
I'm sure we'll talk about later, but don't buy crypto that's peddled by somebody who starts a podcast.
Please.
Anyway, this episode is sponsored by our new meme coin, Rug Pull Coin.
Yep.
We're being honest. We're just taking your money.
But yeah, man, that's where a lot of it comes from. And I've been surprised in that regard too, that a lot of my clients and potential clients that I've talked to, or people just interested in the service that come through, ask all the time about videos that are online. Like, hey, I saw this video about X life insurance policy or something, and we have to kind of talk it through and work through, like, what is this concept and how does it apply?
Explain
But
the 25% that is actual legitimate advice, and the other 75% that you go, that is not even playfully fraud. That is just fraudulent. If you do that, you will get in trouble.
yeah, like, yeah, don't do that. Please.
You know, start an LLC and you can deduct all of your expenses because you're a business now.
Yep.
Nobody's ever gotten in trouble for just creating an LLC and deducting a bunch of stuff, and then the IRS comes through and says, "What's your business?" And they go, "Would you like, do you want an orange jumpsuit with white stripes or a white jumpsuit with orange stripes?"
I'm gonna say that's those other auditors you alluded to earlier that are coming in, you know?
Way worse, way, 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 way worse. And if they have three letters on their jacket that aren't IRS but FBI, well, sucks to be you.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point earlier too about new business owners or even experienced business owners. But when you first get into this, like a lot of my clients I work with, especially on the content creator side, start for fun and don't even know they have a business. All of a sudden you have a 30K month on YouTube and you're like, oh man, what is this? I have
What
to
am I
pay
do with all
taxes
this
on
money?
What do I do? Like, I've literally had people who have said to me, I didn't know that taxes applied to entrepreneurs. I was like, man, we've got some work to do here.
Yeah, it really is wild at times, and it this does come from a standpoint of non-judgmental, because sometimes I know we
Yeah.
forget that we live and breathe this stuff, but there it really is complicated to know what you're supposed to do, and we encounter that all the time when we are growing our own businesses and doing new things. We're constantly hit with stuff that we don't know what to do, and we have to turn to people that actually know what they are talking about and can give us good advice to make sure that we're doing what we need to. You know, because for example, we're not attorneys, despite what a lot of clients think and judging by the questions we get. But the whole goal with this really, and this episode in particular, and I probably should have said this in the beginning, is, you know, we want to let everyone listening know that we live and breathe this stuff. We are licensed professionals. Both of us have way too many years of schooling in this. We do know, to put it bluntly, what the fuck we're talking about. And as we go into future episodes and have different topics on whether you're just a solo entrepreneur, whether you've started to hire people, advice for personal finance, how to grow your business, how to deal with the personal challenges, we both have the licenses that are anyone that knows anything about CPAs knows the CPA exam is not easy, which is good because it weeds out a lot. But we have the licenses, we have the training, and we have gone through the shit just like our clients have in building our businesses from nothing. That we do understand this stuff. I mean, we are living it. We live it every single day. You know, every day we wake up, we still don't know what's going to happen because the business is constantly changing and there's always new things happening, and you're never fully prepared on what it's going to throw at you or what new skills you're going to have to pick up. Everybody starts their business pretty much going, well, I know I'm really good at doing this thing, so I'm gonna stop doing my full-time job and instead I'm gonna go out with my own business and I'm gonna do this thing that I'm really good at and I can get paid to do all of that. And what do you mean I have to do sales? And what do you mean I need to track everything that I'm getting paid? And what do you mean I need to come up? You want to? What do you mean an estimate? I got to figure out how to price for the what? Nobody trained me on any of the what is all of this stuff. And we've gone through it. You've gone through it. I've gone through it. We help our clients go through it. This is what we do for a living. There's a lot of people out there that'll say, well, CPAs are this and that and the other thing. I've seen some that are really off base. I remember I saw one that said they go to CPA school. And I'm like, last I checked, I didn't go to CPA school. I just went to college, but maybe you would have known that if you'd gone. Anyway, that might be a little too target. I'll save the saucy remarks for later. But that's our goal here, is to cut through the bullshit. There's so much out there that, you know, as we go in, we want people to know that this is what we do. We've gone through it. We're continuing to go through it. We have successful businesses of our own that we are running on a day-to-day, and a lot of what we're going to talk about is going to come from the perspective of the very challenges that we have gone through and are going through. I wish I could say I have it all figured out, but if there's anything that we're not sure, or, you know, this is our new step, we'll talk through all of that. I mean, there'll be a great kind of compare and contrast, I think, between our businesses, because we are at different stages in growth just due to the benefit of I started before you did, so I've just had more time to do things. And I think there's obviously I'm biased, but I think there's a lot that can be gained for our clients that listen, for other people that just want to do a little bit to be a little more informed on how business works, whether they have their own, they're really struggling, or they just are thinking about it but want to do a little bit of their homework ahead of time. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to help people and help you not make the same mistakes that we did or our clients did, because it'll save you some money.
And time.
Oh, time. The learning one is the biggest one. Being able to learn from other people's mistakes and know not to do it ahead of time, instead of having to spend 2 years mucking it up and then have to look back and realize, oh, I could have done this from the beginning and it would have been so much more successful.
Right. Yeah, and you hit it on the head. I think that's why it was so important for both of us to put real in the title of the podcast as well, and give, like you said, this episode to show the context and all the years of experience, even before we started careers, because came from a family of entrepreneurs and
Same
business
here.
owners, and you know, I've lived it my whole life. And the ups and downs, dude, a lot of both. So, you know, just knowing that for future episodes, and yeah, I think you hit it right on the head.
It really, I truly love it because there is always something new to learn. I mean, I've been in business about 5 years now, and I still pretty much every week, sometimes almost every day, are learning something new or realizing that, oh, I could have done this better, or if I had done this 2 years ago, or a year ago, or 6 months ago, 3 months ago, a month ago, if I had done this last week, it would have been a little bit better. But it's a lot of entrepreneurship is almost glorified in the, I don't want to say media, but in a lot of the news of here's the under 30 that built this $1 billion business,
Mm-hmm.
or here's this other, and they have all this money going through. And I'll rant more about this at a future point, but I think for a lot of people, it ends up being very discouraging that I've felt it. I felt it firsthand of like we're only
100%.
here. I'm only here at age 30, and there's people that are losing billions of dollars in crypto fraud before the age of 40. Thank you, Sam Bankman-Fried. Truly, how that's a whole other thing. But I mean, when you look at the dollars that go into it, but that's not really how it works, and that's not really how businesses work. Most businesses out there aren't a Silicon Valley startup getting a bunch of investor seed money or getting a small loan of $1 million or any of the stuff that is far more interesting to read about, because real business to a certain extent is a lot more boring and rote. It covers all the same fundamentals, whether you're a contractor, you're a hairstylist, you're running a bookstore, you're teaching, you're a lifeguard teaching people how to swim. All of it follows a lot of the same fundamentals that aren't particularly sexy. There's no sports cars out there for most businesses of I'm flying on private jets and stuff like
Yeah.
that, which by the way, private jets super expensive. Don't ever get one. Hundreds of thousands of dollars per hour. Oh, no thanks. I can think of easier ways to burn money. But there's so much that, the whole idea behind this podcast is to explain, real profit. How do you actually make money? Fundamentally, how do you have a healthy and sustainable business? In real perspective, what we have seen, what our clients have seen, what we have gone through in order to have our successful businesses, what our clients have had to go through to have their own successful businesses. Like, it's not easy, but we want to help whoever we can really achieve the American dream, of having that ownership over your own financial freedom, of having your tiny little slice of the pie. There, depending on if you spend too much time on Reddit, everyone would have you believe that the only companies that are out there, the only businesses that exist, are giant, multinational, multi-billion dollar corporations, and they control everything. And they control a lot. Not going to deny that. But most employment in the US is to small businesses, and most people that build fortunes for themselves come from starting their own businesses and having a thing that they do and building it from there. And it's both easier than you'd think but harder than you'd believe. Which I think is
I like that.
about the only way I could really sum up the entire process. Is looking back, there are parts where you go, that's all that this really took. And then there's a lot of it where you look back and go, my God, I did not realize what I was going to have to go through.
Yep. It's such a beautiful mix of both. And I was just talking to someone about that last week, not to go too deep down a rabbit hole, but when you're looking at building generational wealth for your family, it's not that big as people think. You don't have to be a billionaire. You can be a business owner and make a solid living and then still provide a legacy, for your family or whatever after you're gone or something. And I don't know, man. I like what you were going with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting for us as we've been growing to truly realize from our own growth perspective that the actual impact that we are having on a firm of 13 people is more like supporting 30 or 40 when you take everyone's
Mm-hmm.
families into account that we are directly providing for livelihoods.
Right.
That it building that really allows you to help build people's futures. Business gets a lot of times gets a bad rap, but rightfully earned. But a lot of small business, when done well, is really one of the few things that can actually lift people out of the economic class that they were born into. A lot of people think that it is impossible. It's not impossible. It's difficult. Not going to sugarcoat that. I think we both be in agreement that it's not, if it was an easy thing, everyone would be doing it. But it's not
Mm-hmm.
this giant Everest-sized obstacle that only the privileged few that were born, the landed gentry, really, that can experience that level of financial security. There is a lot of opportunity out there. We've seen it. Most of our clients are first-time business owners. They have found these opportunities. I mean, yours in particular are a lot of people that suddenly find themselves with wealth that they don't know what to do with. We're not talking billionaire levels,
Exactly.
but we are talking people where they are comfortable and financially free. And same thing over here. We work with a lot of new businesses, or sometimes we help older ones that need that additional insight, but it's not this impossible task. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and I think even though this is geared towards kind of current existing business owners and people to take a lot from, I would hope that if we could inspire one person to actually take that initial step to try and do that thing that they have been talking about just trying to do, that dream that they've always had but they've never gone through with. I mean, that would be a success in my book if one person listened to this and decided to go forward. I mean, would we love to have thousands of people listening to this? Sure. Is that what we're hoping for? Not in particular. Mostly hoping to just give some advice to our current clients and other people that we work with. But it really, there's a lot of negativity these days. I know you deal with it. I deal with it. Life just has a tendency to really wear you down. And I think if we can help people understand that it is possible, that there is that bit of hope out there that you can make something for yourself. It's not, you're not fucked from the beginning.
Exactly, dude. Amen. I think that's why I've gravitated and loved doing financial planning so much, is because when you can show on one piece of paper that this is possible if you literally do these action items, that's that's it, man.
To
There you
break down
go.
numerically, if you want to be a millionaire, this is what you got to do.
Yeah. I literally talked to somebody about that last week.
Yeah, it is some wild stuff, and I think every month that goes by, every year that goes by, we realize more and more the actual opportunities that are out there when we have new clients coming to us. Where we have people we work with where we go, I didn't even know you could get paid to do that.
Yep.
That's a thing. Oh my God. Content creators. You go, what do you mean you make videos staring at paint and people will watch it for hours as a sleep aid? I never would have thought.
Hmm.
Pretty certain I made that one up, and I'm sure that's somewhere on YouTube.
If it's on the internet, dude, you like, or if it's a idea, it's out there, you know.
There's no such thing as an original idea.
Not, yep.
You just got to do it a little bit better than everybody else. It really is some wild stuff. I know we got a little mushy gushy here at the end.
That's the end. That's what it's for. But
Yeah,
is there anything
our,
else
our
you can think of, Connor, that we haven't talked about yet?
um, I think most of what we'll want to talk about will go on into future episodes. It mostly, we rambled a little bit, but whoever is listening to this, the idea is that you guys know that we've gone through this and we want to give you context when we talk into the future. This is where it's coming from. This is who we are. This is our not scorecard. The word eludes me, but in a way we're kind of staking even our own kind of reputations on it of, we do know we are I know it only goes so far, but we are trusted advisors for our clients. People trust us to tell them what to do with their livelihoods, both with their business and their personal. I mean, people trust us to tell them what to do with their money. I always jokingly tell clients that really the only people that will know you better than us will be your doctor and your priest. And these days, most people don't have a priest, and some of the things we've been told should have been said to the doctor. So we are this kind of last bastion of people tell us everything, and we are entrusted to help them with their lives, with for what most people is the most intimate part of what they do, which is their money. And that is a responsibility that we take very, very, very seriously, which is why we aren't going to sugarcoat things. We will tell you this shit is going to be hard. It is going to be difficult. This is what we've gone through. This is what's going to happen, but you can get through it because we've seen it happen. But we want to give, when there's so much fluff and BS around on social media, we want people to understand that we are attempting to tell you reality. Here is how things actually work, how it's actually happening. The real perspective on our clients, real profit. How'd you like that for a segue?
Love it. Well,
That's
great job, man. I really enjoyed it.
that's my closing remarks. So if you've got anything to you want to add to, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I'm good to go. You said it all.
Alrighty, then on that note, if anyone is listening to this and has made it to the end of episode 0, just know that even though this is the beginning, we highly, highly value you taking time out of your life to listen to us talk, and we hope you'll join us for future episodes. Thank you.
Absolutely.